Welcome to Starting the New School Year in ELMS, Part 2 of a two-part series. In this section, we're going to be talking about enrolling children in ELMS and managing child records in ELMS. This part is for people with eligibility and enrollment roles in ELMS, regardless of your job title. So you could have any job title, but if you do eligibility and enrollment in ELMS, you should also be attached to ELMS with that particular role. And it's also for ELMS administrators. So those are the only people who can enroll children in the ELMS system. We're assuming that someone has already completed your subcontractor site and class information for the new school year. If not, please see the training module Starting the New School Year in ELMS, Part 1. I'm going to move right into an ELMS demonstration here. You can see that I'm in a training site on ELMS where we'll be showing pretend children, pretend contractors. In fact, that's the name of the contractor agency that we're in right now, is Pretend Contractor. When I say contractor, I mean an agency that contracts directly with the State Department of Early Learning. And I'm going to be demonstrating as a person who only has access to ELMS in the eligibility and enrollment role. You may have additional roles also, and so you may see more ELMS tabs and be able to do more things in ELMS than I'm able to do here today. When you first open ELMS, you're on the news page, which has ELMS tips, information about the latest changes to ELMS, and some training information. We update it very frequently, so please be sure to check if there's something new here. I'm going to move us right along to the Child tab. You can see the Child Search page. Over on the right-hand side, there is something pretty new here that shows us that we can change the school year. So I'm going to change it to the 2013-14 school year. And you'll see that the color band at the top of the page changes to green. If I change back to 2012-13, it's back to a peach color. Each year on April 1st, another year is going to be added to this list here. And at that same time on April 1st, some of the information already in ELMS will roll forward to the new school year. And some items will be cleared so that you need to re-enter them. Okay, so I'm in ELMS. I've got a child search here. And I'm going to show you some of the things I can see just looking at this list of children right here. So I can see that the first child, Adrian, is on a waiting list right now for the 2013-14 school year. And that under the actions column, it says I can view their application. That means that their application is already complete and that it doesn't need any new verifications to enroll them in this new school year. You can also see that their enroll button is here and available, so I can enroll them directly from this screen into a class. You can see the next child, Alan, is already enrolled in a class for the 2013-14 school year. And then I'm going to look for another kind of child here. I've got one here with a completed application but not yet on a waiting list or enrolled. I've got one under that, John Snow, with an incomplete application that could be put on a waiting list now but can't be enrolled until the application's complete. And then down near the very bottom, I've got a child named Training Child who is on the waiting list, and the action is to complete their application. This means that there is some work I need to do in this application before I can enroll the child in the class. Okay, I'm going to take us to the waiting list. And I'm going to take us to the waiting list for a site named Birch. And we have children who have rolled forward into this school year from the previous school year. And I can tell that because it says their applications are already complete. And right from this waiting list, and I can see that they've now become a 4-year-old. Oops, I'm going to take back that these were children who were already enrolled in the previous school year. The reason I can tell that is because they would have 100 points if they were enrolled last year and they were 4 years old. So this child was created in the 2013-14 school year, and they're a 4-year-old. I want to remind everyone that the age we use for a child is the age that they are on August 31st, just before the school year starts. Even if they have a birthday during the year, ELMS will call them a 3-year-old for the entire school year or a 4-year-old for the entire school year. Anyway, here from the waiting list, if you've got a child with a completed application, the application completed says yes, all you have to do to enroll them is click on this Enroll button here. Assign them to a class. Put in their expected start date. Choose their family support person and click Enroll. And that child is in the class. Okay, I'm going to look for another type of child now. Let's see here. So here I have a child named Training Child whose application complete says no. And I'm going to, if I want to enroll that child from the waiting list, I need to click on the word no. This is a child who I believe was created in the 2012-13 school year on the waiting list there, automatically rolled over to the new year. But we need to update their application because they've never been enrolled in a class before. And so I need to complete anything that's not yet complete and read the rest to make sure it's accurate. If they has their foster care status changed, their child-only TANF grants changed if they went into kinship care, are they currently homeless? Is this still their family size? Because families can grow and shrink. If so, I could change. If it has changed, I could change it with the blue button here. And then I need to how I verified their family size. Let's say I looked at a tax record. And moving on to the next page. This page is complete at this point, but I'm going to check if it's all still accurate and make changes if needed, and then go on to the next. The income questionnaire is always blank if a child's rolled over to the new school year. So I'm going to fill that out. I'm going to say that family did have income. Training Mom is the mom's name, and she did have income, and she's employed full-time. Clicking OK. I'm going to say she has a tax return and received some child support here. And I'm putting in her amounts. And she receives about $200 a month in child support, so I'm going to put in that amount. I didn't do that very well. Okay, we need to work on that calculator, get it fixed here. So once that annual income's in there, I click OK. It gives me a chance to check if her annual income accurately represents her current situation, if there's been a death, divorce, or a job loss. It may not. In that case, I might say no, and I might take the opportunity to enter the monthly income there. In this case, we're going to say it does represent her income. I'm going to answer any questions that haven't been answered here. I'm going to say this child's never been in Head Start or Early Head Start. But since the last time I talked to them, they are now on an IEP. It's a speech IEP of a school district, and they do have special ed preschool there. And I'm going to say they have been expelled from an early learning program or child care due to behavior in the past. It's an optional question, but it gives some priority points. Click yes. And I'm going to say this child has a parent who is disabled, and the family has been under CPS supervision in the past, and Training Mom has a 11th grade education here. Clicking next. Going into health and updating or changing anything that's here. So let's say they do not have a chronic health condition or low birth weight. They do have medical coverage, provider 1, but they don't have a regular clinic and they're not up to date on their well child exams. They do have dental coverage, but they are not yet connected to a dentist or having had their dental screening. And we don't yet have their certificate of immunization status. Okay, so this application for the child is complete. They're already on a waiting list, so I'm not going to add that. I could click here to print the application for signatures. That you'll notice that by mid-May of 2013 that printed application is much improved, easier to read. So you can use that for the parent's signature and the staff person's signature, that all the information entered for eligibility is correct. Okay, I'm going to save and close her application and go back into this child. And you can see now that it says View Application under Actions, which means it's complete, and the Enroll button is available. I can enroll the child from here, from the waiting list, or from the classes and waiting list pages. And I'm going to put the child in the play class. And pick their family support person. Okay, so the child is successfully enrolled. So children who were 3 years old and were in ELMS the previous year and were on waiting lists or enrolled will automatically have rolled over to 2013-14. If there's a child who was in 2012-13 as a 3-year-old but did not was never enrolled in a class, was never on a waiting list, then there are steps that you can take to get them into the 2013-14 school year. I don't know that I have a sample child in here right now to do that with, but I'll show you what you would do. You'd find the child with the, let's say, they had a complete application or they didn't have a complete application. It doesn't matter. You'd need to first add that child to a waiting list in the 2012-13 school year, in the first school year. And then you could ask your ELMS administrator to move that child's record over to the new school year. And in a minute, I'll show you how that works. I'm going back into 2013-14. I'm going to find a child who is enrolled in this year. So let's say we have Alan Albee enrolled in this school year. And they're enrolled for next fall, but we just had an opening here in April of 2013 that we could enroll this child for 8 more weeks of the 2012-13 school year. So what I need to do is contact my ELMS administrator and have this child's record moved back to the 2012-13 school year. A record can really only be active in 1 year at a time. So I'm going to log out as the eligibility enrollment staff, and I'm going to sign back in as myself an ELMS administrator. The ELMS administrators at the contractor level or at Department of Early Learning can do this task. What they do is go to the Admin tab and then click on Move Child Between Years. And there'll be the whole list of children who are in this year, but either came into this year as 3 years old before they, after the automatic rollover, after April 1st, the automatic rollover, and you want to move them into the new school year, so you can click just this Move Action button. And now the child will be available in the next school year. Not sure why it didn't work that time. Okay, I'm going to try with the child that we know that we entered here. Okay, so the second one I clicked did work. The other one, the first one I clicked was entered by someone else, and I'm not sure the status of it right now. Okay, you can see that once I Once I did that, the child is now on the list for in the next year, and we can move children from next year back to this year. So let's see who I want to look for here. Okay. Well, I'm just going to show you that you can find a child, click on move, and move them backwards. Okay. Why we're getting the script popping up is because I'm in here on a statewide version as myself, and so there's just too many children on the list. So I'm going to go back in as this pretend contractor person with eligibility enrollment staff. And if my administrator did that move action, then I would be able to find my child here in the child search again. I want to talk for a second about what children who are 4 years old in the previous school year. If they were ever enrolled or on the wait list, they will still be available by switching back to that school year. If they were never on a waiting list and never enrolled, they will disappear from ELMS on June 30th. And that's to protect their confidentiality. If we haven't provided any services and we don't need to provide waiting list data about children in the future, then we're not going to keep the confidential records here. Okay, I'm going to take us back for a quick review of what happens to child records in ELMS. Again, if the child was 4 years old in the first year, they were ever enrolled or on the waiting list, they will stay in ELMS for that year. If they were 4 years old and never enrolled or on a waiting list, their record's going to be deleted on June 30th. If they were 3 years old in ELMS and they were enrolled or on the waiting list by March 30th, their record would have automatically rolled over to the new school years on the same waiting list they were on before. If they were on the waiting list but never enrolled, you'll need to re-verify their eligibility and finish their application up for the new school year. If they were 3 years old in the first school year and never enrolled or on a waiting list, their record is still in the old year. You can manually move them to a waiting list in the old year, and then an ELMS administrator can move them past into the new school year. Okay, just a reminder to get all your children into ELMS by October 15th. Complete their pre-screening application for all your funded slots, even if their class start dates in the future. An exception for children who are going into classrooms that are being used by Migrant Head Start, those children, and they're becoming ECEAP classrooms later, those children must be in ELMS by October 30th. Also by October 15th, exit all the children who are not attending. And then after October 15th, update ELMS within 5 business days of any time a child starts or exits a class. If at any time you need help with ELMS, please use this email, elms@del.wa.gov. There are 3 or 4 people watching